Hi, Bryce here. So today what I wanted to do was I wanted to kind of film me revising some of the scripts and sales scripts inside of the sales section of my training program. So I'm going to kind of dive deep. It's more behind the scenes. I'm going to kind of explain my thought process, explaining why we're doing things. So like the biggest thing is historically we've had, two or three different types of sales flows or sales scripts inside the program. Now, what's happening is over the years, I used to do more of like it's called a one call close, where it's like as soon as a person gets on the call, you would generally try and like scope out their work. You would try and gain some commonality, and then you'd be able to give them a price quote right then and there, and then try and see like if you can get the invoice. Now that works very well, but what a lot of both myself and my students started getting was a lot of inbound referrals, meaning that some of our referral partners started, sending us leads. So then what happens is like you would get cold called a lot, right? So what we moved towards is more of like a two call close, like maybe like a anywhere between like 3 minutes to about 15 minutes, just kind of get the pain of the individual and see exactly where they were. And then from there, we would get access to their books. We would run kind of a diagnostic review in between the calls and like have a second call to kind of present different things. So, but what started happening was the script I used for my 15-minute call kind of ran into the script that I would use for my 45-minute sales call. So I end up asking a lot of the same questions again. And like for someone like myself, that's not that big of a deal because I understand how to like switch the language slightly to get a deeper answer. But for some of the students, what would be happening was they would feel like they were asking the exact same questions and they were asking the exact same questions. And some of their potential clients would get very irritated with them. And it wasn't they're being like irritated in a bad way. It's just more of like, I already answered this question the other day. And if you don't really know how to pivot off of that, it makes it very tough to kind of do that. So what I'm going to be doing inside of this is kind of tweaking the script, making it a lot easier. So generally we have the 15-minute call script, and that's going to be inside of another training module if you're watching this inside of the training portal. I'm assuming you have that. And then at the end of it, it's going to tie into your proposal template, like the slide aids we give you utilizing the script. But this is kind of that intermediate area where it's like you've done the 15-minute call, you understand kind of the budgetary concerns, you understand exactly where they are, you understand a kind of a little bit of the pain, but not a huge amount. Then you've already got a diagnostic review. Now you've done the review and now you're presenting it. So one mistake that I see a lot of people make is they just immediately go in and start talking about like what they found and like the pricing of it. That's not enough. We need to make sure first that they feel very we need to make sure they understand and remember the reality of what they're dealing with and why they got on the call with us in the first place. If you don't do that, it's gonna be very, very tough for you to close a sale, especially when you start getting a higher price point. Now, some people might be asking, like, why are we going to be showing this? It's because, like, yeah, it is a really good video for like the YouTube channel, but I mean, it's only a piece of it, a piece of the whole equation. Because it's not just a sales call; it's also how you go and get the referrals. It's also how you go and do the lead generation. Just everything kind of plays a part in each other, and also works really well with the pricing style we're doing. So, Bryce, notes. Maybe make a second module about tonality and how to deliver the lines. Okay, cool. So this is a very important thing because how you say this stuff is very, very important. It's not just what you're saying, it's how you say it. And that's where a lot of the practice comes into play. And like I think in another training module, we're going to show you guys how to practice your conversation so you can actually be able to deliver these lines a lot better and make much more of an impact with every single thing you say. So it takes a lot less effort at the end of the call to be able to get someone to want to work with you. Now keep in mind, I get a number of students ask me like a number of people asking me what should I be saying in my objection handling in order to kind of get everything over the line. Now, that's really, really important because it's not just the end of the call where a lot of this stuff comes into play. It's also during like the middle of the call. Give me one sec. Let me see. Okay, just see you are sending the agenda. Boom. Okay, let's go. So jumping into this thing. So intro. So do not try and be one of those people that does relationship selling only. It works for some people, but it can be very hard to stay focused on your pain points in order to like really make sure that the person wants to get started. What that means is like sometimes people get on like, the weather, they talk about like a bunch of random stuff and they talk about like their kids fishing and they kind of just freestyle the conversation. You don't want to freestyle the conversation, especially if you're dealing with like a business owner that has a lot of authority or is used to doing sales, because then they just totally control the conversation. They start asking a bunch of price questions. They start saying like, how long have you been in the field? Do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this? Why should I trust you? Like they give you a million questions, right? So that can work for people who are really good because they're really good at answering questions. But if you're not that amazing, and not to say like I'm like super, super amazing, right? I do have a really good close rate, and I have done, probably about between 1,700 to about 2,300 sales calls. Yes. Um, but you're always kind of improving. So, and all that to say is you want to make sure you're using a script as much as possible. You're trying to float the script. So the introductions, yes, you can basically say like, how are things going? What I've kind of found in recent times is that if you've already done the 15-minute call and the person's just getting on the phone, yeah, you could do like a hi, how are you? But I would try and get into it as quickly as possible. So, and also really keep in mind, it's not just about endlessly, mindlessly talking, right? And not really saying anything, especially if you're a person that gets very nervous, do not deviate from the script. And if you don't know what you're going, like keep with the script. I've heard some students on our call reviews that we've done where even though you might not call yourself nervous, if you start rambling or if you're just like all unorganized, your prospect will perceive that as nervous, and that kind of lowers your authority. So authority is going to start from the very second we open our mouths. Okay. So authority, basically what I think when I think of authority is that whenever you get on a call, there's kind of a power dynamic. So ideally, you want to be even. But in some business owners' minds, if they're doing like $10 million a year, right, they're gonna be up here. And if they see you kind of as like, even if you're a CPA, they see you kind of more as like a grunt who's just doing like bookkeeping, payroll, even tax work. They just see kind of as a grunt. It's down here. It's very hard to objection handle. It's very hard to hold them accountable. It's very hard to remind them of stuff. So the way the script is kind of designed is for them to both lower their guard and to see you more as an even playing and to raise your perceived status, right? So by the end of the call, you're either ideally you're here or you're up here and they're kind of down here, right? Because we're really going to be honing them in on the bookkeeping, accounting, and monthly services aspect and really making you kind of show your expertise and show the experience you have throughout the conversation. Now, that does not mean your experience needs to be a million years of experience, right? It's just whatever you have, we're going to show you how to maximize that as much as possible. So start from the beginning, setting the frame and selling the agenda. So I'm going to actually cross this part out because I actually put it inside of this. Bryce, make sure to add a bullet point about how to dip into the pain more effectively. Okay, I'll add those in throughout. So it's like, hey, can you hear me? Your name is X. This will be the 45-minute call. So we're gonna put that. I'm gonna actually like highlight this. If you already know their name, you don't have to ask this. This or yours. So this line is more for like if they have like a business partner and you just see a random name pop up on Zoom and you're like, hey, yeah, is this is Susan? Oh, I thought I was talking to Bob. Is your name not Bob? Right? It's like, oh no, I'm Bob's business partner. Or if you have a sales rep, like in our program, we teach you guys how to go and like get a sales rep eventually, right? Your sales rep can do it, and oftentimes they won't necessarily be introduced to the person. It's just a very easy way to break the ice. Okay, so this call is going to be to exactly see like where you are right now, where you really like to go, just to see if we can even help. So I'm curious, what made you book the meeting in the first place? So again, we're going to process out if this is okay. I was able to do some research. Through your books, action. Um, uh, yeah, here. Cool. Before I do, can you just remind me of the main things you guys are struggling with in regards to accounting? So, okay, so this is an important thing. So, business owners oftentimes want to get to the point, right? So, you're kind of giving them a little bit of a bait, saying, "Hey, I'd love to tell you about the research and kind of what I've discerned and what I've seen, and I'd love to take you through it." But before I do, can you just remind me, what's the main things you guys are struggling with in regards to your accounting? Now, the reason why we want this because we want them to basically start talking about like the pain they have. So it just makes it very easy for us to be able to go down and really dig into that pain so you kind of remember exactly why they're here. We're able to take the video, cross this part out. Yeah, so say authority section. So for all the students, if you're watching this, put in your attractive character from the insert your. So if you're watching this outside the program, like maybe this is a demo video, the attractive character is something that we have all of our students do so that when someone hears it, it makes it very easy for them to fully understand exactly why they should be working with them. We're having authority sections out of here because again, this is what starts bringing your value up, right? So this is them, this is you. We're trying to bring your value up at the beginning of the call. Cool. So get to me a little more about your business. How long you been doing it for? Do you like you're doing how it's going? Change anything about it? How do you mean? Tell me more about that besides X, about your current accounting situation. Accounting situation, you like how it's going. So you might see, I'm actually building this thing out live as we're on this call too. So what does your accounting situation look like? About business? How long you been doing it for? What does the current accounting situation look like? I don't like the way it's indented. Um, just a hanging indent, just annoying. Kind of see. Oh, got it. Oh, that's not what we wanted. Do you like how it's going? Okay. Is there anything like so I want to make sure that I like have sections in here that you guys understand where it's just like if someone already answers the question, like don't just like don't ask an answer that you already know the answer. Like don't ask a question you already have the answer to. How do you mean? When you find that finds they don't like, then you them elaborate. Have them elaborate. How do you mean? Okay, so this is very important. How do you mean is like the just a key question. Like, what do you mean by that? How do you mean? How so? Um, when you say that, like, what do you mean by that, right? Or how do you mean, or how so? Like those questions unlock people, right? That unlocks the prospects and potential clients like mine. If you have that, it makes it so much easier for you to get the answers you need to. Like if someone ever like says something like crazy, like, "Oh, I think that price is way too high," it's like, well, how do you mean? When you say the price is too high, it's like, what do you mean by that? Or in what way? In what way is it too high? Yeah, so besides X, what don't you like about your current accounting situation? So basically, this is called the two truths. Okay. So generally there's like two truths, and then it's like that means that there's two interpretations of every situation. There's a positive interpretation, there's a negative interpretation. Okay. It's like I have a black pen, and what I really like about the black pen is that it's black ink. I can use on any type of paper. I can sign all my contracts with it, XYZ, and I can tell my friends about how cool it is because it's an excellent pen. The second truth is that it hurts my wrist when I write because it just scratches the paper too bad, or it runs out of ink, or the ink just runs all over the paper. It's bad, right? So there's two truths. There's a positive truth, there's a negative truth, right? So we're first getting to talk about what they do like about the situation, right? Oh well, my current person, they get all the stuff in a timely manner. It is really good work. It's okay, cool. I guess is there anything that you would change about that potentially? Yeah, well, she just never gets back to me, or she kind of goes AWOL every once in a while. She's like 3 months behind, blah 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 blah, right? Because now they start talking about the good stuff. Now they're gonna start talking about the bad stuff, right? And we need the bad stuff in a lot of cases in order to kind of add more leverage to go. So the fact of X and Y. So the fact that X and Y spoke about, yeah. So not having good data, I guess, and not being able to have like timely data, not just not having good one, but just untimely data. I guess what impact has that had on you personally, though? Slow down here when you say this. Slow down here when you say this. Really emphasize the word personally in more of a concerned slash confused manner. So keep in mind, you want to kind of match the energy the person has while still saying the words the way that needs to be. So like if the person's like super happy and blah 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 blah, it's like, oh yeah, I mean like so not being able to have like this and this, I guess, how's that been impacting you personally though? Versus someone's kind of like low, slow, dry. It's like, yeah. Mhm. Yeah, man, I'm sorry to hear that, takes you five days to go and get an answer. And yeah, I mean, what you're like, you have an account manager with the CP firm, then you have like an assistant account manager, then you like, so do you ever really speak to the person who's doing your books? Huh. And I guess what impact has that had on you personally, though? Right. And they talk, well, I never really know exactly how much money I have in the bank, payment processors, my account receivable, just always way too high. Never feels it's coming down. It takes me like 6 months to go and collect on my cash, right? I mean, not being able to collect on your cash, like, I mean, do you have good cash reserves? I guess inside there, or does that, I guess, does that hurt you guys, or how does that affect you guys? Well, it's blah 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 blah. All right, cool. You don't have the book, so what are the problems that are coming up now? Okay. So now we're in pains and problems. So the situation is not necessarily just asked about like the pain. It is starting to dig into it, but it's more like the situation, what's going on. Now from here, it's more about like just kind of digging that needle. This question's not bad pains. What problems are coming up for you now? If you don't have the bookkeeping solved and search specific again. This one's gonna be kind of a hybrid one. We're gonna remove this one. Cool. So, well, how long you felt that needing to get the loan, maybe the AR being just 180 days behind being collected, man, or not being able to get that loan, I guess. Yeah, how long has that been kind of coming up for you? This question is more if you don't have a timing, right? If there are specific time events like they said, hey, I'm trying to apply for a loan, right? Well, I guess how long you guys been really thinking about getting a loan for? How long have you guys been having trouble getting a loan for? How long have you guys been looking for this, right? So it's more about how long has pain really been of the problem. And it's like, well, what's stopping you from either doing it on your own or alternatively, I guess, have you guys considered doing this, maybe bringing this position in-house? Okay, so what stopped you from doing this alone? So this question is more for people who are just getting started. Like sometimes you might get a person who's like, who might have an office admin or might have a background in accounting, right? Maybe they're like a nonprofit business owner and they were a CPA in their past life, or they're like the treasurer of their church or something, right? So it's like, well, what's stopping you from doing this on your own? Ideally, you want someone that's ideally you want someone who's more like beginner to intermediate level. You don't want someone who has like a large organization who's never done this stuff themselves. You don't want to ask that there, right? Next is alternatively, I'm curious. I mean, if they are a large organization, right? Some people generally ask, like, well, why would someone want to hire an accountant or a bookkeeper if they're a large organization? Well, this is what you need to ask that question, right? If you're thinking it, that's what a lot of them have been actually thinking about. So you need for them to basically say what they're thinking. So at the end of the call, they don't try and say, well, maybe we can go in-house, right? It's like, I'm curious. I mean, have you guys considered, bringing this role in-house? This role. And keep in mind, like if you notice, like in this thing, I'm like kind of tweaking the language patterns because like I'm having different conversations with past company owners in my head right now as I'm kind of like talking and writing, right? So it's like it's slightly different because I'm like thinking, okay, so this is like what bigger companies say, this is what the smaller companies say. And I'm trying to get like the best of both worlds just in case you run into either one of them. Okay, so we already asked this question. Also, you might see the different flags on this document. Flags mean for me sometimes when I was both when I was intermediate level in sales, when I was starting to get more advanced, I would skip certain questions because it felt awkward to ask, right? Or I just didn't want to have like confrontation, or I just didn't want to get like any kind of negative emotions. But it's like the longer I'm in the game, the more I understand. It's like, oh, you need to ask as many questions as possible in kind of a really good order. Like, don't just ask random questions, but you need to basically close as many of these doors as you possibly can while you're doing your actual consultation call before objection handling, right? Because the last thing you want is for you to go through this whole thing like, well, I'm potentially going to bring someone in house to do it, or I just might have my office admin do it, or maybe I can just do my own books, right? You want to prevent that. That's what you're doing inside of pain. So that's why I kind of have these flags here, and that's just an explanation of it. But in this case, I've already done this one, so we're not going to put that in there. Solution. Solution is basically like what are the things that they're trying to like do to fix this problem? I'm gonna have everything like non-color coded in a little bit. These are just like certain things. Okay, well, I guess what have you tried to do so far to fix the situation? Have you tried to hire? So this is like a spot where you can enter whatever your position is. Like if you're a bookkeeper, you can say, have you ever hired a bookkeeper before? If you're a CPA, say like, have you ever hired a CPA before, et cetera, et cetera. I'm gonna get some bullet points here as well. Right? Because you need to see what they've tried. You have to see what someone's tried before. Okay. So have you tried to hire a bookkeeper in the past? Mhm. Let me see. I'm gonna bite my apple. One reason why I started my business, I don't know if you know my story, Just because I have like really high and low energy, like my blood sugar just drops very, 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 very quickly. Amira, oh, cool. Looks like someone just signed up for the program. Awesome. But yeah, awesome. So it looks like yeah, it looks like someone just signed up for the program. Oh, so that's awesome. Aw. It's sad because like sometimes I get another text message from someone in my Facebook community. And like a lot of people are trying to grow their business right now, but there's just a lot of stuff going on in the world. And I do feel, um kind of sad for he hasn't been able to join my program because he's kind of saving up some money. And that's one reason why I kind of make like YouTube videos, even like different things like this, and I share the videos like to the public. It's just because I want to have people get at least some help, even if they aren't able to afford my program right at the moment in time. I want them to kind of take some steps towards being able to grow their business. Um, yeah. So next, okay. So what have you tried to do in the past? That's a good one. I like this question so much. Whenever I ask it, yeah. So okay, so you hired a bookkeeper. If they don't answer, ask this question. If they say they hired someone once, but don't expand on it. Okay. So this is incredibly important. Yeah, if they don't expand on it, then you ask a follow-up question. Don't just like kind of let them like say yes and then just like move on to the next topic. That's a big mistake a lot of people make. You gotta get answers to your questions. Okay. A long time ago, a sales trainer told me good salespeople get answers to their questions. Now, what that means is bad salespeople, and the reason why is because good salespeople ask questions they don't have the answers to. So they need to ask those questions in order to know the situation of how to go and present their service in a little bit. Bad salespeople, they don't really know exactly why they're asking the questions they're asking. So as soon as they don't get any answers to it, or they don't get the right answer, the outcome they're trying to get from that specific answer, then they kind of like move off, right? And they miss that ammo and they miss that kind of thing. So at the end of the call, it comes to bite you in the butt. There's a lot of notes. I think I actually want to go, okay, in the section of the script, we're trying to dig deep to find what's happening, what does it look like. And so the solution is basically looking at what have they tried? What have they already tried? And where do they want slash what do they want? Question mark. Okay, so try what do you wish you had known or done differently outside of myself? Yep, this is a very big one as well. Did something go wrong? Okay, so this is actually getting to talk to kind of elaborate on that. Next, what do you wish that you had known differently? That you had known or done differently? Um, you can say either or. Also, by the time you see this inside of the training portal, the script's gonna be heavily cleaned up. I'm just kind of making this thing live right here and giving you my thought process behind it so that you can actually start interpreting it. If you have like another sales script inside of our course that's not this fully updated one, you can at least understand like why we're doing certain things in the existing script that you're using. So it just makes it easier for you. Outside of myself, are there any other insert your title? So if you're a bookkeeper, say a bookkeeper. If you're CFO, say CFO, CPA, et cetera, that you're speaking with about potentially helping you. You need to know this because you need to know, are they going to actually sign up with you, or they have to go through like 5 or 6 different rounds, 5 or 6 different weeks, 8 months, 8 years before they are fully ready to pull the trigger. The last thing you want is for them to basically say, oh, we had 5 or 6 other price quotes, and you had no idea they had 5 or 6 other price quotes, okay? Because you would handle the conversation slightly differently. Okay. So if they say yes, was there anything in particular that caused you maybe not to go with them? If they not, you can skip this question. Ideally, we are trying to get an anti presentation here. An anti-presentation, basically what not to say. basically basically you want to know exactly like what to say versus what not to say. Okay, that's the most important part. You don't want to say the things they already hate. So they said this person basically said that they were going to get back to me within 48 hours, and then you're kind of talking about your stuff and you kind of emphasize that, hey, my response time is 48 hours. If you never asked that question, you would never know that's not what they wanted. Maybe they wanted like faster, like 24 hours, right? So if you hear this ahead of time, again, what you have in this section of the sales call is going to make it way easier by the end of the call to be able to close on. So it just kind of goes way easier like that. So what are the criteria looking for? Um, this one, this one's more advanced. This is more of an advanced approach. Need to have at least the same level of authority to land this one. So I think by the time this is actually inside of the program, I might have deleted this question completely. Um, because if you're on the same level as a person, both in this thing, you can kind of tell them how to like live their life. If they're like, making 100 times more than what you are, like if their take home is like $2 million a year, right? And you're just getting started with their business. It's very hard to kind of tell them how to live their life, right? But so this one's more advanced because on some of these questions, like you're gonna have to know when to ask versus when not to ask. It's still considering two or three different keep use tomato sauce analogy. I believe I'm gonna put this inside of the and what does I call objection handling slash reframes section. I might have an addendum to this video that kind of breaks down this mini story you can use. What criteria are you looking for? Okay, come on, come on. I don't like when like it doesn't move the right bullet points. Okay, so again, it's advanced. Only ask this if they basically said they don't want to work with the other person they just spoke about. Way, this question really confirms what they just told you. So only ask this. Cool. Also, yeah. So okay, so this is the right criteria you're looking for. Okay, so basically, what this is doing, we're having them design our presentation for us. We are having them design the highlights of our presentation for us. Basically, they are telling us where to spend the majority of our time during our presentation of the plan. Uh, Hmm. How would that change? How would that change things for you? This again is how changed. You gotta match that vibe. Okay, so if you're thinking this script is really advanced, it's okay. We can use like the other scripts we have inside of it. Um, it's like this this one is like it's so killer when you know how to do it. Match the vibe of the other person. If they are super excited, ask this. If they are more laid back, say it more in a laid back manner. Well, that changed. But uh, the goal of this question is to understand why these things. Keep in mind, guys, like if you're watching this right now, you're probably saying, Bryce, this is way too many questions. This is way too deep. No one's gonna answer my questions when it comes to this stuff. Yes and no. If you're speaking to the right person, they're gonna want to work with you. So they're gonna want to follow your follow your process, right? This is very important for you to know who you're actually doing business with, right? Because you don't want to do business with someone who doesn't even have the time of the day to like answer like 10 minutes worth of questions, right? And this really gets to the deep heart of the conversation that you're having with the person and just makes it so much easier for you to really connect with the person and then get them to want to work with you. So the key thing of this script is heavily based on connection and getting real answers and talking more about like life and how it overall affects the business, right? Because one thing most people have trouble with is if they just see you kind of as a grunt and they like this kind of like silo where it's like, they don't really care that much about what you're doing. You can't charge the price you need to because they just don't respect you enough to actually do it. Um, but yeah, so we really need to make sure you ask this. And this is where the real rapport comes in, right? This question, this solution and this consequence question is like where the sale is made. Um, this is critical when developing a connection. I'm going to actually put this inside of the same comment with your potential client. It's imperative that you get good at asking this question. Okay. This increases how much pay you. Now, consequences urgency. This section is critical because it locks in the sales. And you to get this moving fast. There's a lot of internal pressure here. Internal pressure. Oh my goodness. So it's funny. When I first started learning sales for this kind of script, I totally hated it. It was just way too much personal information. It just felt like we were taking a million years to kind of get to the point. It wasn't streamlined, but it's just like you have like amazing conversations when you actually do this kind of script, right? It's crazy. So what if nothing? Okay, oops, wait, vision in terms of getting X. What if nothing changed about your situation and you're still in the same position, I guess 6 years from now? I guess how would you feel then? An insert Usain Bolt analogy. Oh. Mm, if they misunderstand question, mm, this negative once, aka the boogeyman, doesn't happen to them. The boogeyman. Um, Usain Bolt slash Michael Phelps, just depends on who you're speaking to. Mike Hale. Phelps analogy. I'm like, if they misunderstand the question, then go into the same Bolt's. Okay, so this can happen a lot. This can happen a lot. Where they'll misunderstand that first question. And I personally I'm not an expert at asking that question the best way. So what I had to do is I actually had to bridge the gap by kind of using a Usain Bolt. Basically, it's a story about like you just choose a famous like Olympian or some famous public figure and basically talk about like if when they're so okay. So first I go like, okay, do you know who Usain Bolt is? Most people are like, yeah, I know that. It's like the track star. Yeah. So when Usain Bolt is running the Olympics, right? He's gonna run pretty fast. He's running towards a goal. He's trying to win, right? But if you were to put Usain Bolt back into like his hometown Jamaica and you put a lion behind him, he's gonna run way faster, right? Because he's running for his life. He's running away from something. I guess what is that lion for you? Right. And then basically what that does is it gets them to kind of think about, oh, what's the negative motivation? Like, failing, being called a failure, or not being able to afford like their favorite pair of shoes when they're a kid. And they can never go back to, not making money. And they need to go and like get the cash for their business up because if they don't, their company's gonna fail and everyone's gonna know they're a failure, and then blah 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 blah, and then blah 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 blah. And then they start getting pumped up. They start in some cases, they're not always gonna get pumped up, but like the ones that are very emotional and just very kind of like attacky, right? They're generally going to get pumped up. Some people get very sad about stuff. So it just really depends on who are you talking to and then kind of moving it from there. So, okay, cool. Next is why make a change now instead of 6 months? This question might need to be just a moment. This question can be asked exactly as written, or it can be set up I was thinking, hmm, why do you feel now is the right, 6 months? Something slow down. Okay. This is more confirming question. In some cases, I don't ask it all the time. Some I skip. Unless I have a string of indecisive people, aka the I need to think about it. Okay, very, very important. I need to think about it is solved within these two ones. So this is like, it's not the right time. This handles it's not the right time objection. This handles the I want to think about it or I don't know if it's the right time. So they're both kind of handling time objections. Um, to pre-handle the it's not the right it's not the right time objection. It's not the right time. It's like, what do you mean it's not the right time? You just basically just told me for the last like 3 hours it's the right time. This defeats the objection. I don't know if now is the right time to make change or slash and the objection. I don't know if I'm ready. Cool. So now you slide into your presentation. So based on what you told me, I believe that what we do could work for you guys because X, Y, Z, A, B, C. Um, just repeat back pains I told you about earlier. About earlier. So I don't know if you have any questions. If you want, I can just walk through the whole process and you can ask questions along the way. But totally up to you. Don't say it like that. I was just kind of playing around. So I don't know. I don't know if you have any questions or if you want, I can just walk you through the whole process and you can ask questions along the way. But totally up to you though. So I asked this question because it kind of makes them feel like they're the ones driving the conversation. Almost nobody chooses like the okay, let me just ask you a bunch of random questions. Everyone more like wants to walk the whole process, right? Because they just want an organized path to being able to go. In some cases, they might ask you about the price right away. And at this point, it's okay to kind of talk about the pricing ahead of time. It just really depends. But I'm going to say that for the next video. That's where you go and flow into your proposal template number one. So the key with this question, you have to ask it like one straight question. You can pause slightly, like have it be elongated sentence, but you want to ask it one sentence. Make ask this as one straight. You can speak the sentence slowly, but don't pause after you say, I don't know any questions. If you pause, they will interrupt and ask questions. If they interrupt and ask questions, see if you can deflect and say, actually, I have a few slides I created to make it easy to see, to make it visually easy to see. Can I take you through? Question mark? And then boom. Cool, I do like this. Okay. Boom. Now you go into slide proposals template number 1. To make explaining process really to see. Cool. And that just, yeah, right there, that just transition into it. And because this also um overcomes the objection, like I need to go see something. This also can overcome the objection saying I need to be able to see something, which is really a think about objection, which is more like a stalling objection, which is more of a stalling objection. Cool. Awesome, man. Let's go. I will talk to you soon. Yes, also, if you want to help growing your business and you want to kind of see the script as well as all the other different scripts we have inside the program, go ahead and click on the link inside the description, either above or below the video, to see if and how I can help you out. Depending on the time you're seeing this video, you might be speaking to one of my team members, or you might be speaking to myself on the call. Either way, look forward to seeing if we can help you out. Talk to you soon. See you later.